On Christmas Eve, a millionaire finds a dirty note stuck to the gutter, written by his own daughter. As he reads, "I want a new dad," the luxurious world around him silently crumbles. Torn between $1 million deal and the chance to be a real father, he faces the most difficult decision of his life. But what he does next changes not only his destiny, but that of everyone around him. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us what city you're watching us from. We'll keep going. The snowflakes dance through the December air in Westport, Connecticut, a town where colonial mansions stood proudly alongside modern luxury homes. 7-year-old Emma Parker sat cross-legged on her bedroom floor, her small hands gripping a pencil too tightly. Tears smudged the paper beneath her as she wrote with crooked letters on Santa stationery. "Dear Santa, I don't want dolls or games. I just want a new daddy because mine only makes mommy cry and never looks at me." Emma folded the letter carefully, tucking it into a red envelope. Her mother, Jessica, called from the kitchen of their small rental cottage, a far cry from the estate they once shared with Emma's father. "Emma, sweetie, dinner's ready." "Coming, Mommy." Emma tucked the letter under her pillow, deciding she would mail it tomorrow. Across town, in a glass-walled office overlooking Long Island Sound, Andrew Parker adjusted his Italian silk tie while examining profit projections. At 42, he had everything money could buy: a penthouse in Manhattan, a waterfront mansion in Westport, cars worth more than most homes, and his company, Parker Investments, featured regularly in Fortune magazine. His assistant, Megan, knocked gently before entering. "Mr. Parker, the board is waiting," and Mr. Blackwood from London called again about the international expansion. Andrew nodded without looking up. "Tell them I'll be there in 5, and schedule a call with Blackwood for tonight." "Tonight? But sir, it's Christmas Eve." Andrew finally glanced up, his eyes cold. "Is there a problem with that?" Megan hesitated, then shook her head. "No, sir. I'll arrange it." After the board meeting, Andrew drove his Bentley through downtown Westport. Christmas decorations hung from every lamppost, families bustled about with shopping bags, and carolers sang on the corner. He barely noticed any of it. His mind was on the London deal, a billion-dollar opportunity to expand Parker Investments across Europe, which would require him to relocate for at least 2 years. He stopped at a traffic light near the town green. Reaching for his imported cigars, he rolled down the window to discard the cellophane wrapper. That's when he noticed something red caught in the gutter, an envelope soiled but still intact. Something about it caught his attention. Perhaps it was the childish handwriting addressing Santa, visible through the slush. On impulse, he reached out and grabbed it. The light turned green, and Andrew pulled into a nearby parking space. He opened the envelope, unfolding the simple letter inside. As he read the words, something shifted in his chest, a physical sensation he couldn't immediately identify. "I just want a new daddy because mine only makes mommy cry and never looks at me." The signature at the bottom froze his blood. Emma Parker, 7 years old. Andrew stared at the paper, his hands trembling slightly. He recognized the handwriting, the way Emma formed her E's with too many lines. The last time he'd seen anything his daughter had written was over a year ago, when Jessica had sent him a drawing for his birthday. He'd been too busy to respond. His phone buzzed. A message from Megan. "Mr. Blackwood is ready for your call regarding the London expansion. Documents attached for your review." Andrew started to put the letter down, then stopped. He read it again. And again, each time the words cut deeper. "Mine only makes mommy cry and never looks at me." He sat in his luxury car, surrounded by leather and technology, while his phone continued to buzz with notifications about the London deal. The contract was already drawn up, requiring only his signature. The legal team was standing by. The potential profits were astronomical, but the crumpled letter in his hand suddenly felt heavier than all the contracts he'd ever signed. Andrew called Megan back. "I need to reschedule Blackwood. Something's come up. But sir, he's specifically waiting." "Yes, I said reschedule." Andrew's voice echoed in the car. He rarely raised his voice, priding himself on his control. "And clear my schedule for tomorrow." He drove aimlessly for hours, the letter on the passenger seat like an accusation. When had he last spent real time with Emma? When had he last asked Jessica how she was managing? The child support checks he sent were generous, but he realized he had no idea how they lived now. The divorce had been his idea. His rising career and Jessica's simple dreams had grown incompatible. She wanted family dinners and weekend outings. He wanted international clients and board positions. In the settlement, she'd asked for little, just enough to care for Emma. He'd considered it a victory. Now, driving past houses with Christmas lights and families gathering inside, Andrew felt hollow. He returned to his empty mansion, the letter still in his hand, and poured himself a scotch. His phone buzzed again, this time with an email from Blackwood. Contract attached. The board in London is eager to finalize before year-end. Your relocation package is exceptional. Your new life awaits. Andrew opened the attachment. 60 pages of legal language promising wealth, prestige, and a complete escape from Connecticut. From Emma. From the uncomfortable feeling the letter had stirred in him, he stared at the signature page, cursor blinking. One click, and his future was set. Instead, he closed the laptop and took out Emma's letter again. "I just want a new daddy." The words haunted him through the night. He tried to distract himself with financial reports, with calls to overseas investors, with anything that had always consumed his attention before. But the child's handwriting kept floating before his eyes. By morning, he had made a decision. He tucked the letter into his wallet, got into his car, and for the first time in over a year, drove to Jessica's address. He had never visited the rental cottage where they had moved after selling the family home. His lawyers had handled everything. Andrew barely recognized the neighborhood, modest homes with small yards, nothing like the manicured estates he was accustomed to. He found the address, a small blue cottage with a patched roof and a tiny porch where a single string of Christmas lights hung. He sat in his car, suddenly unsure. What was he doing here? What would he say? He had no plan, no strategy, things he never operated without in business. The front door opened and Emma stepped out wearing a faded coat too thin for the winter weather. Her hair was in uneven pigtails, and she clutched a worn fabric doll. Not the expensive toys he had sent for her birthdays. Jessica appeared behind her, looking thinner than he remembered, dark circles under her eyes. She froze when she saw his car. Andrew stepped out, letter in hand, his heart pounding in a way no business negotiation had ever caused. Emma spotted him and stopped in her tracks, eyes wide with confusion. "Daddy?" Jessica stepped protectively in front of their daughter. "Andrew, what are you doing here?" Andrew held up the letter. "I found this." "Did Emma write it?" Jessica looked at the red envelope, then at Emma, who nodded shyly, fear and hope mingling in her expression. Before Andrew could speak, Jessica's words cut through the cold morning air. "You can't buy back what you destroyed." The statement hit him harder than any legal threat or business rival ever had. Looking at the small cottage, at his daughter's worn clothes, at Jessica's exhausted face, Andrew realized that his presence alone meant nothing. This wasn't about money or quick fixes. This was about rebuilding what he had carelessly discarded. Andrew stood on the porch, stunned by Jessica's words. The morning frost crept through his Italian leather shoes, but he barely noticed. Emma peered from behind her mother, clutching her doll tighter. "I just want to talk," Andrew said quietly. "Please." Jessica hesitated, then sighed. "Emma, go get your backpack. The bus will be here soon." "But Mommy." "Now, sweetheart." Emma glanced uncertainly between her parents before disappearing inside. Jessica crossed her arms, the gesture both defensive and practical against the December chill. "You have 5 minutes, Andrew." "We can't be late for the bus." Andrew gestured toward the Bentley. "I could drive her to school and have her get used to you being around. Then what happens when you disappear again?" The accusation stung because it was fair. Andrew had no response. Jessica shook her head and motioned him inside. The contrast between his mansion and this small cottage was jarring. The living room furniture was worn but clean. A space heater hummed in the corner. The kitchen was visible through a doorway, small appliances, chipped countertops, and a calendar filled with Emma's school events. Andrew noticed water stains on the ceiling, peeling wallpaper, and a draft from the windows. His child support checks should have provided better than this. As if reading his thoughts, Jessica spoke. "Medical bills took most of it. Emma's asthma got worse last winter. I never knew she had asthma. There's a lot you don't know, Andrew. Jessica's voice was resigned rather than angry. What do you want? Andrew held up the letter. I found this yesterday, in the street. Jessica's expression softened slightly. She was supposed to put it in the mailbox. I found her crying when she couldn't find it. She paused. What are you going to do about it? Before Andrew could answer, Emma returned wearing a backpack nearly as big as she was. She looked at her father with uncertainty. Are you coming back home, Daddy? The simple question carried the weight of 1,000 business negotiations. Andrew crouched to her eye level, something he realized he'd rarely done even when they lived together. I don't know yet, Emma, but I found your letter to Santa. Emma's eyes widened. You did? Yes, and I'm sorry I made you and Mommy sad. The front window revealed a yellow school bus stopping at the corner. Jessica gently nudged Emma toward the door. That's your bus, sweetie. But Daddy... We'll talk more later, Jessica promised, helping Emma with her coat. Maybe Daddy can come by this weekend. Andrew seized the opening. Yes, Saturday. I could take you both to lunch. Jessica gave him a measured look. Just be here at noon. Don't make promises you won't keep. After Emma left, an uncomfortable silence filled the small living room. Andrew noticed a small Christmas tree in the corner, with handmade ornaments. Nothing like the professional decorator's creation at his mansion. Jessica, if you needed more money for medical bills, why didn't you ask? Pride, maybe. Or knowing you'd see it as just another transaction. She sighed. Look, Andrew, what's this really about? Did the letter make you feel guilty? Will writing a bigger check make you feel better? That's not... Because Emma doesn't need your money. She needs a father who shows up, who remembers her birthday without an assistance reminder, who asks about her day and actually listens to the answer. Andrew felt the truth of each word. I want to try, Jessica. I really do. Why now? Her eyes narrowed. Is this some holiday sentimentality that'll fade by New Year's? Andrew's phone buzzed in his pocket. Blackwood again. The London deal waiting. He silenced it without checking. I've been offered a position in London, he said instead, running our European expansion. 2 years minimum. Jessica nodded slowly, understanding. And now you're feeling torn because of Emma's letter. Well, life is about choices, Andrew. You taught me that when you chose your career over our marriage. That's not fair, isn't it? Jessica stood. I have to get to work. My shift starts at 9. Where are you working now? Westport Medical Center. I'm a receptionist. The hours work with Emma's school schedule. Andrew remembered when Jessica had been pursuing nursing before Emma was born, before his career had taken precedence over everything. Is that what you want? What I want, Jessica laughed without humor. I want to finish my nursing degree. I want Emma to have her inhaler without worrying about the cost. I want to fix this roof before the next big snow. But mostly I want her to stop writing letters to Santa, asking for a new father. The words hit Andrew like physical blows. He looked around the cottage again, seeing it through new eyes. Not just the shabbiness, but the effort. Homemade curtains. Carefully mended clothes drying on a rack. A wall of Emma's artwork. Jessica had created a home while he had built an empire. Let me help, he said finally. We don't need your charity. Not charity, just... He searched for the right words. Let me be involved again. With both of you. Jessica studied him, years of disappointment visible in her expression. Actions, Andrew. Not words. Emma's had enough broken promises. As Andrew drove back to his office, Jessica's challenge echoed in his mind. His phone had 17 missed calls and 32 emails, most about the London deal. The deadline for his decision was tomorrow. Megan met him at the door, her expression anxious. Mr. Parker, Mr. Blackwood has been trying to reach you all morning. The board is meeting in an hour to finalize the European strategy. They need your answer. Tell them I'm still considering it. Megan's professional composure slipped. Still considering. But, sir, this is the opportunity you've been working toward for years. Andrew entered his office, Emma's letter still in his pocket. On his desk sat the contract for London. Opportunity, advancement, escape from the uncomfortable reality he'd just witnessed. The path of least resistance. His business partner, Thomas Reynolds, entered without knocking. Drew, what the hell? Blackwood's on the warpath. You were supposed to sign last night. I got distracted, Andrew said, sitting heavily in his leather chair. Distracted? This is a billion-dollar expansion. Andrew pulled out Emma's letter, smoothing its crumpled edges. My daughter wrote this. Thomas glanced at it impatiently. Cute. Have your assistant send her something nice. Now about London. She wants a new father, Tom, because I made her mother cry and never look at her. Thomas's expression shifted from frustration to uncomfortable recognition. His own divorce had been bitter. His relationship with his teenage sons strained. Kids say things. Drew, they don't understand adult complexities. Or maybe they see with perfect clarity what we've chosen to ignore. Andrew stared at the letter. I saw where they're living, Tom, while I have a chef and a housekeeper and a 5-car garage. Thomas sat down, his tone softening. Look, no one's winning Father of the Year here. We both work 80-hour weeks. That's the price of success, is it? Andrew looked up. Or is that what we tell ourselves to justify the choices we've made? Getting philosophical won't change reality. The London deal needs an answer. Andrew nodded slowly. I know. After Thomas left, Andrew sat alone in his office, the contract on one side, Emma's letter on the other. Two futures incompatible with each other. He pulled up his calendar, completely booked for weeks just as it had been for years. Meetings, conferences, client dinners. He began to clear Saturday. Then Sunday. Then he looked at the school calendar Jessica had on her wall. The Christmas pageant was next Friday evening. He cleared that too. Megan appeared in the doorway. Sir, the board is waiting for your decision on London. Andrew stared at Emma's letter once more, then at the contract. Tell them I need to postpone my decision. Family emergency. Family emergency? Megan repeated, confused. In 7 years, Andrew had never mentioned family issues. Yes, he said firmly. And I need you to do something else. Find out everything you can about Westport Medical Center's nursing program. Costs, schedules, requirements. Megan blinked in surprise but nodded. Of course, Mr. Parker. When she left, Andrew picked up his phone and did something he couldn't remember doing before. He called Jessica's number directly, not through his lawyer. Hello? Her voice was cautious. Jessica, it's Andrew. I'd like to know more about Emma's asthma. And, he paused, unfamiliar territory ahead, I'd like to know what she likes now, what she's interested in, before Saturday. The silence stretched so long he thought she'd hung up. Finally she answered, she likes science, stars especially, and her favorite color is purple now, not pink. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Thank you. I'll see you both on Saturday. As he hung up, Andrew knew the path ahead would be difficult. Thomas would fight him on delaying London. The board would question his commitment. But for the first time in years, another priority had emerged, one written in a child's unsteady hand. Saturday arrived with a fresh snowfall that blanketed Westport in pristine white. Andrew spent the morning in uncharacteristic indecision, changing his outfit 3 times, researching child-friendly restaurants, and even stopping at a bookstore to pick up an illustrated guide to stars and planets. He arrived at Jessica's cottage at exactly noon, his heartbeat quickening as he walked up the narrow path to the front door. Before he could knock, the door swung open. Emma stood there in a purple sweater, her eyes wide with surprise, as if she hadn't really believed he would come. You're here, she said softly. I promised I would be. Andrew crouched down, holding out the gift-wrapped book. I brought you something. Emma took it carefully, looking to her mother who appeared behind her. Dressed simply but neatly for their lunch. You can open it later. Jessica said, helping Emma into her coat. She addressed Andrew with guarded politeness. We're ready when you are. The restaurant Andrew had chosen was casual but warm, a family place with paper placemats for coloring. As they settled into a booth, Andrew found himself uncharacteristically nervous. Billion-dollar negotiations were familiar territory. Making conversation with his 7-year-old daughter felt foreign, so he began awkwardly. Your mom tells me you like science. Emma nodded, coloring the placemat with crayons the waitress had provided. I want to be an astronomer when I grow up. That's quite a big word, but as Miss Bennett taught it to us, she says women can be scientists too, just like men. She's absolutely right, Andrew agreed, stealing a glance at Jessica, who was watching their interaction carefully. Throughout lunch, Andrew discovered things about Emma he had never known. Her favorite subject, science, her best friend, a girl named Zoe, her asthma triggers, cold air and dust, and her newly discovered allergy to strawberries. Each revelation was both a gift and an indictment of his absence. As Emma excused herself to the restroom, Jessica spoke quietly. "This is nice, Andrew, but I need to know, is this just guilt? Will you disappear once you feel better about yourself?" Andrew met her gaze directly. "I postponed the London decision." Jessica's eyebrows rose in genuine surprise. "Really? For how long?" "Indefinitely. I'm reconsidering a lot of things right now. Because of Emma's letter. Because I finally saw what I was losing." He hesitated. "I know one lunch doesn't make up for anything, but I want to keep trying. If you'll let me." Before Jessica could respond, Emma returned, eager to open her present. Her face lit up at the astronomy book, fingers tracing the colorful nebulae and galaxy illustrations. "Daddy, this is amazing. Can we look at the stars sometime, for real?" The question held more weight than Emma could understand. Andrew glanced at Jessica, seeking permission. After a moment, she nodded slightly. "I'd like that very much," he told Emma. "Maybe we could start with the Christmas pageant next Friday. Your mom mentioned you're in it." Emma's eyes widened. "You'd come to that, really? But you always have meetings." The simple observation stung with truth. "Not this time. I'll be there front row." As they walked back to Jessica's cottage, Emma slipped her small hand into Andrew's, a gesture so simple yet so profound that he felt his throat tighten. At the door, Jessica invited him in for coffee, a small but significant olive branch. The cottage looked different in the afternoon light. Smaller, yes, but also warmer than he'd initially perceived. Emma eagerly showed him her room, purple walls, star stickers on the ceiling, and a small desk covered with drawings. "This is where I wrote my letter to Santa," she confided, pointing to the desk. "I was really sad that night because Mommy was crying again." Andrew glanced at Jessica, who had followed them into the room. Her expression was pained. "I had just gotten the medical bills," she explained quietly. "I didn't think she noticed." "I notice everything," Emma said matter-of-factly, the way only children can, like how Daddy's eyes are sad even though he's smiling. The observation hung in the air, disarmingly accurate. Andrew crouched down to Emma's level. "Sometimes grown-ups get confused about what's important," he said carefully. "We make mistakes. But your letter helped me remember." Later, as Andrew prepared to leave, he noticed an elderly woman struggling with grocery bags next door. Emma waved enthusiastically at her. "That's Mrs. Sullivan. She tells the best stories," Jessica explained. "Eleanor Sullivan. She's been a godsend. Watches Emma sometimes when my shifts change." Andrew watched as Emma ran to help the woman, taking a small bag from her hands. "Let me introduce you," Jessica offered, leading him across the snowy yard. Eleanor Sullivan was in her late 70s, with alert blue eyes and silver hair. Her small house was meticulously kept, but showed the same signs of age and financial constraint as Jessica's rental. "So, you're Emma's father," Eleanor said after introductions, her tone neutral but her gaze assessing. "She speaks of you often." "All good things, I hope," Andrew responded automatically. "Children love unconditionally," Eleanor replied. "It's their gift and their vulnerability." As Emma helped Eleanor put away groceries, the older woman showed Andrew a photograph on her mantel, a younger version of herself with a teenage girl. "My daughter, Catherine," Eleanor explained. "We haven't spoken in 12 years. "I'm sorry to hear that." Corporate lawyer in Chicago. Very successful. Eleanor's eyes held a warning. Success consumed her until she forgot where she came from. Now she sends checks but never visits. "Money without presence is just paper, Mr. Parker." The parallel was uncomfortably clear. Before Andrew could respond, his phone rang, Thomas's number flashing on the screen. For the first time in his career, he declined the call without hesitation. Monday morning brought reality crashing back. Andrew arrived at his office to find Thomas waiting, expression thunderous. "The board is losing patience, Drew. Blackwood called 3 times over the weekend." "What the hell is going on with you?" Andrew gestured for Thomas to close the door. "I'm re-evaluating my priorities." "Priorities?" Thomas repeated incredulously. "We've built this company from nothing. Parker Investments is on the verge of international expansion. That's been our goal for a decade." "Your goal, maybe. I'm not sure it's mine anymore." Thomas stared as if Andrew had lost his mind. "Is this about your ex and the kid?" "Buy them a bigger house. Set up a trust fund. Problem solved." "It's not that simple." Of course it is. That's how our world works. We make money, we solve problems with it. Andrew shook his head. I spent Saturday with Emma. Do you know what I found out? She wants to be an astronomer. She's allergic to strawberries. She helps an elderly neighbor with groceries. None of these things can be fixed with money, Tom. Thomas's expression hardened. I see what's happening. Midlife crisis. It'll pass. This isn't a phase. I've missed 7 years of my daughter's life. So what are you saying? You're bailing on London? On everything we've built? I'm saying I need balance. The London deal can still happen, but I won't relocate. We can manage it remotely. Bring in someone else to head the office there. Thomas slammed his hand on the desk. That's not what Blackwood wants. He wants you, the Andrew Parker brand, your reputation, your connections. Then he'll have to compromise. Thomas stood, straightening his tie. The board meeting is Thursday. If you're not prepared to commit to London as planned, I'll have to oppose you. This isn't personal, Drew, it's business. Maybe that's the problem, Andrew replied quietly. Everything has been business. After Thomas left, Andrew called Megan into his office. What did you find out about Westport Medical's nursing program? Megan presented a folder of information. Full program costs about $45,000, including books and fees. Classes run mornings, afternoons, and evenings to accommodate working students. Andrew nodded. Thank you. Now I need you to clear my schedule for Friday evening. Emma's Christmas pageant. But sir, you have dinner with the Japanese investors. Reschedule it. Family comes first from now on. The words felt foreign on his tongue, but right in his heart. As Megan left, Andrew turned to his computer and began drafting a compromise proposal for the London expansion, one that would allow him to remain based in Connecticut while still growing the business. It wouldn't please everyone, but it was a start. That evening he drove by Jessica's cottage again. The lights were on, and through the window he could see Emma at the kitchen table, presumably doing homework. Jessica moved around the kitchen, preparing dinner. The simple domesticity of the scene struck him with unexpected force. He was about to approach when his phone rang. Blackwood from London. Andrew answered, knowing this conversation couldn't be avoided any longer. Parker, we need an answer. The board is getting restless. I'm working on a compromise solution, Andrew replied, one that doesn't require relocation. Blackwood's displeasure was palpable even across the Atlantic. That wasn't the agreement. Plans change. Family circumstances have arisen. Family? Since when do you prioritize family over business? That's not the Andrew Parker I know. The question lingered after Andrew ended the call. Who was Andrew Parker now? The ruthless businessman who had sacrificed his marriage for success? Or the father who had finally recognized what he stood to lose? From the cottage window, Emma spotted his car and waved enthusiastically. Jessica appeared beside her, her expression questioning but not unwelcoming. Andrew waved back, a simple gesture that somehow felt like a promise. The week progressed with Andrew living in two increasingly divergent worlds. By day, he navigated the growing tension at Parker Investments, where Thomas openly campaigned against his proposed compromise for the London expansion. By evening, he found himself drawn to Jessica's cottage, bringing groceries one night, fixing a leaky faucet another, and always making time to ask Emma about her day. On Wednesday afternoon, Andrew sat in his office reviewing the final proposal for the board meeting. His new plan maintained the European expansion, but kept him based in Connecticut, with quarterly travel to London. Financially sound, but radically different from the original vision. It represented his attempt to balance business with his newfound priority, family. A knock at his door revealed Megan, looking uncomfortable. Mr. Parker, there's something you should know. Mr. Reynolds has been meeting privately with board members. I overheard him saying your judgment is compromised. Andrew set down his pen. Compromised how? He mentioned a child's letter and suggested you're having an emotional crisis. Megan hesitated. There's more. He's been in contact with Mr. Blackwood, presenting himself as an alternative to lead the London office. The revelation stung but didn't surprise Andrew. Business partnerships were often conditional, lasting only as long as interests aligned. Still, he'd worked with Thomas for 15 years. Thank you for telling me. Megan, please close the door on your way out. Alone? Andrew stared at the family photo on his desk. Emma at 3, Jessica smiling, himself distracted even in that captured moment. He hadn't looked at it truly in years. Now it seemed to accuse him with the evidence of opportunities missed. His phone rang. Jessica. Andrew. I hate to ask, but Emma's having trouble with her asthma. The pharmacy says our insurance won't cover the new inhaler the doctor prescribed. It's 340s, and I won't have that until payday next week. I'll take care of it right away, Andrew responded, already reaching for his keys. Which pharmacy? Miller's on Main. But Andrew, this isn't why I've been letting you visit. I don't want you to think... I know, he interrupted gently. I'll drop it off on my way. Home. The pharmacy was crowded with holiday shoppers. Andrew waited impatiently in line, aware of the contrast between this errand and the board preparations he'd abandoned. When he finally reached the counter, the pharmacist looked harried. Prescription for Emma Parker, Andrew stated. Ah, yes. The insurance denial. That'll be $340. Andrew handed over his credit card without hesitation. As the pharmacist processed the transaction, he added, "And I'd like to speak to the manager about your pharmacy assistance program." 20 minutes later, Andrew left with not only Emma's inhaler, but also having arranged to cover any medication costs for her that insurance wouldn't pay for the next year. It was a small thing, financially speaking, less than what he'd spent on his last suit, yet it felt more significant than any business deal he'd recently closed. When he arrived at Jessica's cottage, Emma answered the door, her breathing slightly labored. "Daddy, did you bring my medicine?" Andrew crouched down, handing her the pharmacy bag. "Right here, sweetheart. How are you feeling?" "Tight," she said, pointing to her chest. "Like an elephant is sitting on me." Jessica appeared, relief visible when she saw the inhaler. "Thank you, Andrew. Come in while I get this ready for her." Andrew watched as Jessica efficiently prepared the medication, her movements betraying the practice of routine crisis management. Emma took the treatment without complaint, clearly accustomed to the process. It struck Andrew how much of their lives he had missed, not just celebrations and achievements, but struggles and daily challenges. "Better?" Jessica asked after a few minutes. Emma nodded, her breathing easier. "Can I still be in the pageant tomorrow?" "We'll see what Dr. Martin says in the morning," Jessica replied, smoothing Emma's hair. "Now it's time for your bath." As Emma went upstairs, Jessica turned to Andrew. "Thank you again. I'll pay you back when I can." "There's no need," Andrew said. "I've also arranged to cover any medication insurance won't approve." Jessica's expression shifted from gratitude to wariness. "Andrew, I appreciate the help, but I don't want Emma to think relationships can be fixed with money." "That's not my intention," he replied carefully. "I just want to remove one worry from your shoulders." Jessica sighed, sinking onto the worn sofa. "Do you know what the hardest part has been? Not the money, though, that's been tough. It's doing everything alone, making every decision, handling every crisis, being both parents." Andrew sat beside her, maintaining a respectful distance. "I never considered that. I thought the checks were enough." "Money doesn't sit by a hospital bed when she's having an asthma attack at 3 a.m., Jessica said quietly. It doesn't explain why her daddy missed another birthday. The simple truth of her words settled between them. Andrew thought of Eleanor Sullivan's warning. "Money without presence is just paper." "I want to change that," he said finally. "Not just for a week or a month, permanently." Jessica studied him. "Because of a letter that made you feel guilty." "Because of a letter that made me see clearly," Andrew corrected. "Tomorrow is the board meeting about London. I've proposed a compromise that keeps me here. And if they reject it, then I'll have a difficult choice to make." Andrew held her gaze. "But I need you to know that Emma will be part of that choice now, regardless of what happens between you and me." Thursday morning dawned with foreboding. Andrew dressed meticulously in his best suit, armor for the battle ahead. The board meeting was scheduled for 10 a.m., with Blackwood joining via video conference from London. As Andrew reviewed his notes one last time, his phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. "Emma's at doctor now. Breathing better but still wheezing. Doctor might restrict pageant participation. She's devastated." Andrew texted back, "Tell her I'll be at the pageant no matter what, even if she's watching from the audience." The boardroom was tense when Andrew entered. 8 members sat around the polished table, with Thomas already positioned at the far end, a visual statement of opposition. Blackwood's face appeared on the large screen, expression stern. "Gentlemen," Andrew began, "thank you for your patience this week. Before we discuss the London expansion, I want to address the concerns some of you have expressed about my commitment. Thomas interjected, "Drew, we're all friends here. No one questions your dedication to the company you built. We're simply concerned about this sudden hesitation." Andrew met his partner's gaze directly. "It's not hesitation, Tom, it's reprioritization." He turned to address the full board. "A week ago I found a letter my daughter wrote to Santa, asking for a new father because I made her mother cry and never looked at her." Uncomfortable silence filled the room. Business leaders rarely discussed personal failures so openly. "I've spent years putting this company first," Andrew continued. "The result is a successful business but a failed family. I'm not willing to continue that pattern." Blackwood cleared his throat from the screen. "Parker, I sympathize with your personal situation, but this deal requires your physical presence in London. The investors are explicitly buying your expertise and personal involvement." "I understand that," Andrew acknowledged, "which is why my proposal includes quarterly extended visits to London and daily video conferences. Technology allows us to be present without physically relocating." "Unacceptable," Blackwood stated flatly. "Reynolds has already indicated he would be willing to relocate permanently. Perhaps that's the solution." Andrew felt the room shift, alliances realigning. Thomas avoided his gaze, the betrayal now in the open. "If the board prefers that approach, it's certainly their prerogative," Andrew said carefully. "However, as majority shareholder, I would remind everyone that significant structural changes require my approval." The warning was clear. The board members exchanged glances. "Are you threatening to block the London expansion entirely?" Thomas demanded. "Not at all. I'm suggesting we find a solution that benefits everyone. The company, our investors, and yes, my family." The debate continued for hours, growing increasingly heated. Proposals and counter-proposals were discussed, with Thomas and Blackwood pushing for Andrew's replacement, while Andrew held firm. By afternoon, no resolution had been reached. "We'll reconvene tomorrow," the chairman finally announced. "Perhaps a night to reflect will bring clarity." As the meeting disbanded, Thomas approached Andrew privately. "What's happened to you, Drew?" "This isn't the man I've known for 15 years. "Maybe that man needed to change," Andrew replied simply. Thomas shook his head. "Don't throw away everything we've built because of one guilt-inducing letter. Kids are resilient. She'll be fine. Like Eleanor Sullivan's daughter, sending checks but never visiting," Andrew challenged. "That's not the legacy I want." "Eleanor who? What are you talking about?" "Never mind," Andrew sighed. "We'll finish this discussion tomorrow." Leaving the office, Andrew checked his phone to find a message from Jessica. "Doctor cleared Emma for pageant if she uses inhaler beforehand. She's thrilled you're coming. 7 p.m. at Westport Elementary. Don't be late." It was 4:30 now. The board meeting had concluded just in time. Andrew texted back, "I'll be there." Front row. As he drove home to change, Andrew's mind raced with the implications of the day's confrontation. His partnership with Thomas was likely irreparably damaged. The London deal might collapse. Years of work could unravel because of his new stance. Yet alongside these concerns ran a parallel current of anticipation. Emma's pageant, her excitement that he would attend, the promise he had made and intended to keep. For the first time in his adult life, a school event took precedence over business matters in Andrew Parker's mental hierarchy. He arrived at his mansion to find an unexpected visitor waiting in the driveway, Blackwood himself, having apparently flown in from London during the board meeting. "Parker," the British investor greeted him coldly. "We need to talk." Andrew checked his watch, 5:15. "I have a previous engagement at 7 that I cannot miss. We have until 6:30. Blackwood's eyebrows rose at the unfamiliar boundary. "Your daughter's Christmas pageant, I presume?" "Reynolds mentioned it." "Yes," Andrew confirmed, unlocking his front door. "Would you like to come in?" Inside the expansive foyer, Blackwood wasted no time. "I'll be direct. The investors in London want Andrew Parker or no deal. Not your compromise, not Reynolds as a substitute. You physically present in London for a minimum of 2 years, and I've made it clear that's no longer possible for me." "Because of a child's letter?" Blackwood scoffed. "Come now, Parker. Men like us don't change course because of sentimentality." Andrew's gaze hardened. "Perhaps that's precisely the problem with men like us. Andrew and Blackwood faced each other in the mansion's living room, a space designed to impress but rarely lived in. Crystal decanters and leather furniture created the perfect backdrop for business discussions. But tonight Andrew's mind was elsewhere. "You have a choice to make, Parker," Blackwood continued. "London or this domestic experiment. You can't have both." Andrew glanced at his watch, 5:40 p.m. "Is that an ultimatum?" "Call it clarity. The board is divided. With my backing, you could still salvage the deal on your terms. Without it," Blackwood left the consequence unspoken, "and your support comes at the price of relocation." "Precisely." Blackwood studied Andrew with clinical detachment. "I must say, I never took you for a man who would jeopardize everything for, what shall we call it, a midlife crisis of conscience." Andrew moved toward his bedroom. "Excuse me while I change. My daughter's pageant starts at 7. "You're not taking this seriously," Blackwood called after him. "This is your legacy at stake." Andrew paused at the doorway. "No, Richard. For the first time, I'm taking the right things seriously." At 6:15, Andrew emerged in casual clothes, a sweater and slacks rather than his usual business attire. Blackwood remained in the living room, phone in hand. "I just spoke with Reynolds," the investor announced. "He's prepared to make a formal offer to buy your controlling interest if you're truly committed to this new direction." The statement was meant to shock, but Andrew found himself oddly unmoved. "What did Thomas offer?" 30% below market value, assuming you're desperate to liquidate quickly. "But I could arrange a more equitable offer." Andrew checked his watch again, 6:25. "I need to leave now to make it to the school on time. We can continue this discussion tomorrow." Blackwood's composure finally cracked. "Are you actually choosing a school pageant over $1 billion negotiation?" "Yes," Andrew said simply. "Would you like to join me? It might be illuminating." The investor stared in disbelief. "You've lost your mind." "Perhaps I've found something I lost long ago." Andrew picked up his keys. "You can see yourself out. The alarm will set automatically." Westport Elementary School was transformed for the holiday season. Paper snowflakes hung from hallway ceilings, and children's artwork lined the walls. Parents streamed into the auditorium, many still in work clothes, clutching programs and smartphones for photos. Andrew arrived at 6:50, scanning the crowded space for an empty seat in the front row as promised. Finding none, he approached a young mother in the second row. "Excuse me, would you be willing to trade your seat? I promised my daughter I'd be in the front row." The woman hesitated, then nodded with understanding. "Of course, first pageant?" "First one I'm attending," Andrew admitted. Something in his tone must have conveyed the significance because the woman smiled sympathetically as she gathered her belongings. "Those moments matter more than we realize. My husband almost missed our son's first baseball game for a work emergency. 3 years later, our son still talks about how Dad showed up just in time." Andrew settled into the front row seat, uncomfortable in the small plastic chair, but unwilling to break his promise. A minute later, his phone buzzed. Thomas calling. He silenced it without answering. Then Blackwood. Silenced again. Then Megan with a text. "Urgent. Board calling emergency session tomorrow 8 a.m. Thomas mobilizing votes against you." Andrew put his phone on Do Not Disturb mode just as the lights dimmed. The principal welcomed the audience, explained that the children had worked very hard, and asked that everyone hold applause until each class finished their performance. The kindergartners performed first, a clumsy but heartfelt rendition of Jingle Bells with handbells. Parents beamed, recording every moment. Andrew found himself caught up in their enthusiasm, seeing the event through new eyes. Emma's second-grade class was performing a poem about winter stars, fitting given her interest in astronomy. When they filed onto the stage in their costumes, Andrew scanned anxiously for his daughter. She stood near the back, slightly smaller than her classmates, wearing a silver star costume that Jessica had clearly made by hand. Their eyes met across the auditorium. Emma's face lit up when she spotted him in the front row. She gave a tiny wave, which Andrew returned, his throat suddenly tight with emotion. The children recited their poem in unison, with each child stepping forward for a solo line. When Emma's turn came, her voice rang out clear despite her earlier breathing troubles. Even in winter's longest night, the stars remind us light remains. We need only look up to find hope shining. Simple words from a school pageant, yet they struck Andrew with unexpected force. He had spent years looking forward to the next deal, the next expansion, the next achievement, never up to see what mattered most. After the performance, Emma ran to him, still in her star costume. "You came, you really came. I promised I would," Andrew said, crouching to her level. "You were wonderful." Jessica approached more slowly, surprise evident in her expression. "I wasn't sure you'd make it." "Neither was I," Andrew admitted quietly so Emma couldn't hear. "Blackwood flew in from London. He was at the house when I left." Jessica's eyes widened. "And you still came?" "Some promises matter more than business." As they spoke, Andrew noticed Thomas entering the auditorium, scanning the crowd with purpose. Their eyes met across the room, Thomas's expression hardening when he spotted Andrew with his family. "I need to deal with something," Andrew told Jessica. "I'll be right back." He intercepted Thomas in the hallway, guiding him away from the crowded auditorium. "What are you doing here, Tom?" "Damage control," Thomas hissed. "Blackwood called me. Said you walked out on him to attend a school play." "Have you lost your mind?" "I made a promise to my daughter." "A promise?" Thomas laughed incredulously. "We're talking about your company's future. Our investors are in panic mode. The London deal is collapsing." Andrew maintained his composure. "The emergency board meeting can wait until tomorrow." "It's not just about the meeting." Thomas lowered his voice. "Blackwood wants blood. He's threatening to blacklist you with every major financial institution in Europe if you don't recommit to the original plan." "Then that's what will happen," Andrew replied calmly. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I promised Emma I'd take her and Jessica for ice cream after the pageant." Thomas grabbed his arm. "Drew, listen to yourself. You're throwing away everything for what? Some belated attempt at fatherhood. You can't rewrite the past." "No, but I can change the future." Andrew gently removed Thomas's hand. "I'll see you tomorrow at the meeting." As Thomas stormed out, Andrew turned to find Mrs. Sullivan watching from nearby, a knowing smile on her face. "Difficult choices, Mr. Parker?" the elderly woman asked. "Necessary ones," Andrew replied. "Are you here for a grandchild?" "No, I volunteer with the music program. Been playing piano for the Westport Elementary Christmas pageant for 27 years. She nodded toward the exit where Thomas had departed. "Friends don't always understand when we change course." "No, they don't." Mrs. Sullivan studied him thoughtfully. "You found Emma's letter, didn't you?" "Jessica told me about it." Andrew nodded. "In the gutter, of all places. Sometimes the most important messages come from unexpected sources." She patted his arm. "You know, my Catherine sent me a message last week. First contact in over a decade. Seems she's having a crisis of her own, realizing what she's missed." "I hope it works out," Andrew said sincerely. "Time will tell." "Say it always does." Mrs. Sullivan smiled as Emma bounded toward them, still glowing from her performance. The following morning, Andrew arrived at Parker Investments to find the atmosphere charged with tension. Employees whispered as he passed, and Megan met him with uncharacteristic nervousness. "Sir?" "They're all waiting in the boardroom. Mr. Blackwood." "Mr. Reynolds, the entire board." "Thank you." "Megan." "Sir," she called as he turned to leave. "For what it's worth, my father missed everything, games, recitals, graduations. I would have traded all my childhood comforts for his presence." Andrew nodded, touched by her candor. The boardroom fell silent as he entered. Thomas sat at the head of the table, Andrew's usual seat with Blackwood beside him. The symbolism wasn't subtle. "Gentlemen," Andrew began, remaining standing, "I understand there are concerns about my commitment to Parker Investments." "Concerns?" Thomas interjected. "You abandoned a crucial negotiation for a school pageant. Concerns doesn't begin to cover it." Andrew placed his hands on the table, leaning forward slightly. "For 7 years I've put this company above everything. My marriage, my daughter, my own well-being. The results speak for themselves. Parker Investments has grown 300% under my leadership." Murmurs of agreement around the table. "But success at what cost?" Andrew continued. "A week ago I found a letter my daughter wrote to Santa, asking for a new father because her actual father was absent and made her mother cry." He pulled the letter from his pocket, smoothing its worn edges. "I've been carrying this as a reminder of what truly matters. And yes, it has changed my priorities." Blackwood scoffed. "Very touching, Parker, but sentiment doesn't drive shareholder value." "Actually," Andrew countered, It does when that sentiment leads to sustainable leadership. Burnout and broken families aren't a business model. They're a failure of vision. He turned to address the full board. I'm not abandoning the London expansion. I'm proposing a more balanced approach that allows me to be both a leader and a father. If that's unacceptable to some of you, I understand. But I will not sacrifice my daughter a second time. Thomas stood, his expression cold. Noble speech, Drew, but the board has already decided. We're voting on my proposal to buy out your controlling interest and proceed with the original London plan under my leadership. Andrew smiled slightly. You're welcome to vote. But as you all know, any such action requires a supermajority plus my signature as the founding partner. The room grew tense as the legal reality set in. Thomas had overplayed his hand. So what happens now? One board member finally asked. Now, Andrew said, we negotiate like the business people we are. I want this expansion to succeed, but on terms that work for everyone, including my family. As the meeting continued, Andrew's phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. Emma's inhaler ran out. Need refill but insurance still denying. Can you help? 7 days earlier, that message would have been an annoyance, a distraction from important business. Now it was a reminder of why he was fighting for balance. Andrew discreetly replied that he would handle it immediately, then refocused on the negotiation at hand. By afternoon, a compromise had been reached. The London office would open with Andrew, committing to monthly 3-day visits rather than relocation. Thomas would take a more prominent role in European operations, but report to Andrew. Blackwood reluctantly accepted the arrangement, recognizing that half of Andrew Parker was still more valuable than any alternative. As the board members filed out, Thomas lingered behind. This isn't over, Drew. You've undermined my authority and damaged my relationship with Blackwood. That wasn't my intention. Tom, I was fighting for what matters to me. And I was fighting for what we built together, Thomas countered. Don't expect loyalty after this. Andrew watched his oldest business ally walk away, feeling the cost of his choices. Yet alongside the loss was something new, certainty that he was finally on the right path. Outside the office building, Andrew called the pharmacy to arrange Emma's refill, then dialed Jessica's number. The medicine will be ready in an hour, he told her, and I've handled the insurance issue permanently. Thank you, Jessica said. How did your meeting go? I still have a company, Andrew replied with a tired laugh. And I won't be moving to London. Emma will be thrilled. A pause, then. I'm proud of you, Andrew. That couldn't have been easy. The simple validation warmed him more than any business success ever had. No, but it was right. Would you and Emma like to have dinner tonight? I thought we could celebrate her performance. She'd love that, Jessica hesitated. And so would I. 2 weeks passed with Andrew establishing a new rhythm to his life. Mornings still began early with business calls and meetings. But evenings now frequently ended at Jessica's cottage, helping Emma with homework, fixing things around the house, or simply sharing dinner as a family. Not quite together again, but no longer entirely apart. The cottage itself was slowly transforming. Andrew had hired contractors to repair the leaking roof, but he installed the new kitchen faucet himself, under Emma's curious supervision. When she asked why he didn't just pay someone to do it, he explained that some things were worth doing with your own hands. Like my star costume, Emma had asked. Mommy made it herself even though she was really tired. Exactly like that, Andrew had answered, watching Jessica's face soften at the recognition of her efforts. Christmas was approaching rapidly, and Andrew found himself at the cottage on a Saturday morning, helping string lights along the sagging porch railing. Jessica worked alongside him, their breath visible in the December air. We should reinforce this railing in the spring, Andrew commented, securing a strand of multicolored bulbs. We? Jessica repeated with raised eyebrows. Andrew paused, suddenly aware of the presumption. I just meant I could help with it. Jessica smiled slightly. I know what you meant. It's just strange hearing you talk about future projects here. A month ago, this place wasn't even on your radar. A lot has changed in a month, Andrew acknowledged. Before Jessica could respond, Emma burst through the front door, bundled in her winter coat. Mrs. Sullivan invited us to help decorate her Christmas tree. Can we go now, please? Jessica laughed. Let us finish the lights first, and then we'll head over. Eleanor Sullivan welcomed them warmly into her small home, which smelled of cinnamon and pine. A modest tree stood in the corner, boxes of ornaments open nearby. "These decorations have stories," Eleanor explained to Emma, holding up a faded felt ornament. "My Catherine made this in 2nd grade, the same age as you." "Where is Catherine now?" Emma asked innocently. A shadow crossed Eleanor's face. "In Chicago. She's a very important lawyer there." "Does she visit at Christmas?" "Not for many years, dear." Andrew and Jessica exchanged glances, aware of the parallel to their own situation. As Emma helped Eleanor hang ornaments, Andrew noticed a stack of Christmas cards on a side table, the top one addressed in elegant handwriting with a Chicago return address. Eleanor followed his gaze. "From Catherine. First card in 8 years." She lowered her voice so Emma couldn't hear. "Says she's been doing some soul-searching lately. Mentioned possibly visiting after New Year's." "That's wonderful," Andrew said sincerely. "We'll see," Eleanor replied, her hope tempered by years of disappointment. "People say they'll change, but intentions without actions are just wishes on the wind." The gentle rebuke wasn't lost on Andrew. He was still in the proving stage of his own transformation. Actions, not just words. As they decorated the tree together, Andrew's phone remained in his pocket. Silenced but occasionally vibrating with messages he chose to ignore for now. Later, as they walked back to Jessica's cottage, Emma skipping ahead, Jessica spoke quietly. "You know, she asks me every day if you're coming over. I'm worried about what happens when the novelty wears off." "Novelty?" "This reconnection. The holidays make everything more emotional, but what about January? February? When the regular world reasserts itself?" Andrew considered her concern. "You think I'll drift away again?" "History suggests it's possible," Jessica said carefully. "Business crises will arise, opportunities will appear. The daily grind of parenthood isn't always heartwarming moments and Christmas decorations." "I know that. Do you?" Jessica challenged gently. "Emma had an asthma attack at 2 a.m. last month. 3 hours in the emergency room, insurance paperwork the next day, then still had to go to work exhausted. That's the unglamorous reality of parenting." Andrew stopped walking, turning to face her. "I want that reality, Jessica. The good and the difficult. I'm not claiming it will be easy or that I won't make mistakes, but I'm committed to trying." Jessica studied his expression, searching for sincerity. "We'll see," she finally echoed Eleanor's words. "Time will tell." That evening, after dinner at the cottage, Andrew finally checked his messages. 23 emails, 11 texts and 5 missed calls, most related to the London office preparations. Thomas had been conspicuously distant since the board meeting, communicating only through formal channels and intermediaries. One message stood out, from Megan. "Mr. Parker, please call when you can. Something's happening with the Christmas letter situation." Intrigued, Andrew stepped onto the porch to return the call. "Sir," Megan began, sounding anxious, "I thought you should know. A letter like the one you described, from a child to Santa asking for a new father, has gone viral online. Someone found it in the trash and posted it on social media." Andrew's stomach dropped. "Are you certain it's the same letter?" "Certain, the wording matches what you shared with the board. It's been shared thousands of times. People are trying to identify the family. Some are organizing donations." Andrew closed his eyes, processing the implications. "Has anyone connected it to me or Emma yet?" "Not that I can tell, but it's only a matter of time, especially with how things ended with Mr. Reynolds." The possibility that Thomas might use this against him flashed through Andrew's mind, but he dismissed it. Even their damaged relationship had boundaries. "Thank you for letting me know. Megan, keep monitoring the situation." When Andrew returned inside, he found Jessica helping Emma with a science project, a homemade telescope using cardboard tubes and simple lenses. "Everything okay?" Jessica asked, noting his expression. "Just work," Andrew replied, unwilling to worry her prematurely. "Need help with that telescope?" Later, after Emma had gone to bed, Andrew showed Jessica the viral post on his phone. Her hand flew to her mouth as she recognized Emma's words. "How did this happen?" "Someone must have found it after it blew away," Andrew explained. "The same way I did." Jessica scrolled through the comments, her expression growing increasingly alarmed. "These people are trying to find us. They're analyzing the handwriting, the paper type. Some are offering money, gifts." "I'll handle it," Andrew assured her. We'll protect her privacy. You don't understand, Jessica said, her voice tight with anxiety. Emma's school friends could recognize her handwriting. Their parents might make connections. She's already dealing with asthma and being from a broken home. I don't want her becoming some viral Christmas story for strangers to consume. The fear in Jessica's eyes reminded Andrew of the many ways he had failed to protect his family before. This time would be different. I promise you I'll take care of this. Trust me. Jessica handed back his phone. I'm trying to. The following morning, Andrew met with his company's public relations team and legal counsel. The letter had spread to national news outlets overnight, with the hashtag #ChugNewDaddyLetter trending on social platforms. Speculation about the child's identity and circumstances was rampant. We have two objectives, Andrew informed the team. First, protect Emma and Jessica's privacy at all costs. Second, channel this public goodwill toward meaningful action, rather than viral sentimentality. By afternoon, Parker Investments had anonymously established a foundation for children of single parents, with a focus on medical needs and educational support. The initial funding came entirely from Andrew's personal accounts. A carefully worded press release acknowledged awareness of the viral letter while requesting privacy for the family, involved in redirecting attention to the systemic issues affecting single-parent households. And will it work? Megan asked after the statement went out. It might slow the speculation, Andrew replied, but we need to prepare Jessica and Emma for the possibility that they'll be identified. That evening, Andrew arrived at the cottage to find Jessica already anxious. Emma's teacher had mentioned the viral letter in class, prompting several children to suggest it might be Emma's. She came home in tears, Jessica explained quietly while Emma was upstairs. Afraid that Santa betrayed her by sharing her letter, Andrew's heart sank. What did you tell her? That sometimes when we write down our deepest wishes, they find ways of being heard, even if not how we expected. Jessica sighed. I didn't tell her you found it first. She still believes it went straight from the trash to viral fame. Andrew nodded, understanding Jessica's instinct to protect Emma from further complications. I've taken some steps to manage the situation, created a foundation to address the issues your family and others face. Jessica's expression hardened slightly. So you're solving this with money again? Not solving, Andrew corrected gently, responding. Trying to create something positive from an uncomfortable situation. Before Jessica could reply, Emma appeared on the stairs in her pajamas. Daddy? Are you staying to read my bedtime story? The simple question dissolved the tension. Absolutely, Andrew replied, following her upstairs. Emma's room looked different now. The leaking ceiling had been repaired, and new insulation kept the December chill at bay. Andrew had replaced her desk with a larger one, perfect for homework and drawing. A small telescope, a real one, not just the cardboard project, stood by the window. Can we read the star book again? Emma asked, snuggling under her covers. As Andrew read about constellations and galaxies, he noticed Emma growing sleepy, her eyelids heavy. He closed the book gently. Daddy, she murmured, half asleep. Are you going to be here for Christmas? Yes, sweetheart. I'll be here. Promise? I promise. Emma smiled, her eyes closing. Then Santa already brought what I asked for. The simple statement hit Andrew with unexpected force. He sat watching his daughter sleep, aware of how close he had come to missing this, all of it, for another office in another country. Downstairs, Jessica was wrapping Christmas presents at the kitchen table. Colorful paper and ribbons spread before her. She's asleep, Andrew reported. Sitting across from her, Jessica nodded, continuing to wrap a small box with careful precision. You're good with her. Better than I expected, honestly. I'm trying to make up for lost time. You can't, you know, Jessica said matter-of-factly. Those years are gone. You can only move forward. Andrew watched her fingers crease the wrapping paper with practiced efficiency. Is that what we're doing? Moving forward? Jessica's hands stilled. I don't know, Andrew. You've changed, or you're changing. I see that. But relationships need more than grand gestures and holiday spirit. What do they need? Consistency, trust, rebuilding what was broken. She resumed wrapping. I'm not saying it's impossible, just that it takes time. Andrew reached across the table, gently covering her hand with his. I have time now. Jessica didn't pull away, but her expression remained guarded. Let's focus on giving Emma a good Christmas. The rest, we'll see. The next morning, Andrew woke early in his mansion, the space feeling increasingly hollow despite its grandeur. He had begun to consider selling it. Too large for one person, too filled with reminders of the man he had been. His phone rang. Thomas Reynolds. Since their confrontation at the board meeting, communication had been minimal and strictly professional. Andrew answered with caution. Drew, Thomas began without preamble, did you establish that single-parent foundation yesterday? Yes, why? Because reporters are connecting dots. Someone recognized your daughter's handwriting from a school project displayed at Westport Elementary. They're running the story tomorrow. Billionaire investment mogul inspired by daughter's letter to Santa. Andrew closed his eyes, absorbing the blow. How bad? They have everything. The letter, your family situation, the cottage, Jessica's job struggles. Even the asthma. Someone's been talking. Andrew's mind raced. Where are you getting this information? I still have contacts in media, Thomas replied evasively. Look, we've had our differences lately, but this involves a child. I thought you should know. Thank you, Andrew said sincerely. I appreciate the warning. For what it's worth, Thomas added, his tone softening, I understand better now. Why you changed course? The reconciliatory gesture surprised Andrew. Thank you, Tom. After hanging up, Andrew immediately called Jessica, explaining the situation. Pack some overnight bags for you and Emma. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Where are we going? Jessica asked, alarm evident in her voice. My place in the Berkshires. It's private, secluded. We can hide out there until this blows over. Andrews. Berkshire Retreat was a comfortable cabin nestled in the woods, the one property he owned that had never been featured in business magazines or real estate profiles. As they drove through the gates, Emma pressed her face against the window, marveling at the snow-covered pines. It looks like the North Pole, she exclaimed. Inside, the cabin was rustic but well-appointed. A stone fireplace dominated the living room, and large windows overlooked a frozen pond. Andrew quickly set about building a fire, while Jessica explored the kitchen. You never mentioned this place, she observed, running her hand along the pine countertop. I never used it much, Andrew admitted. Bought it 5 years ago thinking I'd take weekends off. I've been here maybe 10 times. It's beautiful, Jessica said. Peaceful. As evening fell, they settled into a semblance of domestic tranquility. Dinner by the fire, board games with Emma, hot chocolate with too many marshmallows. The threat of public exposure seemed distant in this secluded haven. After Emma went to bed in one of the guest rooms, Andrew and Jessica sat by the fire, mugs of tea warming their hands. What happens when we go back? Jessica asked quietly. We face it together, Andrew replied. Set boundaries, protect Emma, move forward. Jessica studied the flames. You make it sound simple. Not simple, just necessary. Andrew hesitated, then continued. Jessica, finding that letter changed me, but not in the way you might think. It didn't create new feelings, it uncovered what was always there, buried under ambition and distraction. And what was there? Jessica asked, her voice barely audible above the crackling fire. Love, Andrew said simply. For Emma, for the family we were. Maybe even for the family we could still be. Jessica's eyes glistened in the firelight. Andrew, I'm not asking for answers tonight, he assured her. Just telling you where I stand. Whatever comes next, media attention, business challenges, all of it, I'm here. Not just for Emma, for you too. Jessica wiped away a tear. One day at a time, okay? That's all I can promise right now. That's all I'm asking for, Andrew replied, reaching for her hand across the space between them. This time, when their fingers intertwined, Jessica held on. Christmas Eve arrived with a heavy snowfall that transformed the Berkshire landscape into a winter wonderland. Emma woke early, rushing to the cabin's windows to watch the flakes drift down onto the already white terrain. For 3 days, the family had remained in their secluded retreat. Phones turned off except for essential communications. Andrew had worked remotely, managing the media situation through his PR team, while giving Jessica and Emma space from the public attention. Do you think Santa will find us here? Emma asked over breakfast, her expression serious. Andrew exchanged glances with Jessica. Santa can find children anywhere, he assured his daughter. Especially good ones who help their mothers and do their homework. Emma seemed satisfied with this answer, returning to her pancakes. Jessica mouthed a silent thank you to Andrew across the table. Later that morning, Andrew's satellite phone rang, the emergency line reserved for critical business matters. He answered in his bedroom away from Emma's curious ears. "Mr. Parker," Megan began, "I'm sorry to disturb you, but there's been a development with the letter situation." Andrew tensed. "What kind of development?" "A positive one, actually. The story broke yesterday as expected, but the public reaction has been remarkable. Your foundation has received over $2 million in donations in less than 24 hours. People are calling it the new daddy effect, and there's something else." "Go on," Andrew prompted when she hesitated. "A producer from National Morning contacted us. They want to interview you, not about the letter specifically, but about your foundation and the broader issues facing single-parent families. They're promising complete privacy for Emma." Andrew considered the opportunity. "What do our PR people say?" "They think it could shift the narrative, from gossip about your personal life to meaningful conversation about family support systems." "Your choice, of course." After ending the call, Andrew found Jessica in the kitchen preparing lunch. Emma was in the living room working on a drawing by the fire. "Everything okay?" Jessica asked, noting his expression. Andrew summarized the conversation, ending with, "It's your decision too. You and Emma are the ones most affected by any publicity." Jessica chopped vegetables thoughtfully. "What would the interview focus on?" "The foundation. Policy changes to help families like yours, medical support for children with chronic conditions. No personal questions about us or Emma. And you believe they'll honor that?" "If they don't, we walk," Andrew said firmly. "But this could help a lot of families, Jessica. People are paying attention." Jessica studied him, searching for ulterior motives. Finding none, she nodded slowly. "Okay, but I review all terms beforehand and Emma stays completely out of it." "Absolutely," Andrew agreed. "I'll call Megan back." As he turned to leave, Jessica called after him, "Andrew, I'm proud of how you're handling this. Creating something positive instead of just damage control." Her approval warmed him more than she could know. The afternoon found them bundled up outside, building a snowman together. Emma directed the operation with surprising authority, insisting on precise placement of the coal eyes and carrot nose. Andrew lifted her to place a wool hat on the snowman's head, her small body weightless in his arms. "Can we name him?" Emma asked. "What would you like to call him?" Jessica responded, adjusting the snowman's scarf. Emma considered the question with endearing seriousness. "Nicholas, after Santa's real name." "St. Nicholas," Andrew confirmed. "That's perfect." As they admired their creation, a text message arrived on Andrew's phone, from Eleanor Sullivan of all people. It read simply, "Check the news when you can. Catherine has seen your story." Curious, Andrew excused himself to return to the cabin. Inside, he turned on the television for the first time since their arrival. The story had indeed broken nationally, but the coverage wasn't the invasion of privacy he had feared. Instead, most outlets focused on the foundation and the larger issues at play. Video footage showed people discussing their own experiences with single parenthood, medical challenges and the struggle to balance work and family. And there, on one of the morning shows, was a woman identified as Catherine Sullivan, corporate attorney from Chicago, Eleanor's daughter. Seeing this story about a successful businessman reconnecting with his family, it hit home, Catherine was saying, her composure professional but her eyes revealing emotion. "I've been estranged from my mother for years, prioritizing career advancement over family relationships. This letter made me question everything." Andrew watched transfixed as Catherine continued. "I called my mother this morning. We talked for 2 hours, our longest conversation in over a decade. I'm flying to Connecticut tomorrow to spend Christmas with her." The interviewer leaned forward. "What changed for you?" "Realizing that success means nothing without people to share it with," Catherine answered. "This little girl's letter to Santa wasn't just for her father. It was for all of us who've lost sight of what matters." Andrew turned off the television, overcome with unexpected emotion. His phone chimed again. Another message from Eleanor. "Thank you. My Catherine is coming home." When Jessica and Emma returned from the snow, rosy-cheeked and laughing, Andrew shared Eleanor's news. "That's wonderful," Jessica said. "Eleanor has waited so long." "Is Mrs. Sullivan happy?" Emma asked, removing her snow boots. "Very happy," Andrew confirmed. "And do you know something amazing? Your letter to Santa helped make it happen." Emma's eyes widened. "My letter, but how?" Andrew and Jessica exchanged glances, silently debating how much to explain. Finally, Jessica nodded, giving Andrew permission to continue. "Your letter was found and shared with many people," Andrew explained carefully. "It reminded us all, about what's truly important in life. Family, being there for each other." "Like you being here for Christmas?" Emma asked, her simple question cutting to the heart of everything. "Exactly like that," Andrew confirmed. That evening, they prepared Christmas Eve dinner together in the cabin's kitchen. Andrew, whose culinary skills had previously extended only to reheating prepared meals, found himself assigned to vegetable chopping under Jessica's patient instruction. Emma set the table, meticulously folding napkins according to a technique Mrs. Sullivan had taught her. "Does it feel strange?" Jessica asked quietly, while Emma was distracted with her task. "Being away from your usual Christmas?" Andrew considered the question. In previous years, he would have attended obligatory corporate parties, sent expensive gifts selected by his assistant, and spent the holiday itself on calls with international clients who didn't observe Christmas. Not strange, he decided. Right. Dinner was simple but perfect. Roast chicken, vegetables, fresh bread from the local bakery. They ate by candlelight at the rustic wooden table, with Christmas music playing softly in the background. Emma regaled them with stories from school, her animation growing as she realized both parents were truly listening. After dinner, they gathered by the fire for a tradition Jessica had maintained even during the years of separation, reading The Night Before Christmas. Emma snuggled between them on the sofa as Jessica began the familiar tale. Andrew watched his daughter's face, alight with wonder and anticipation, and felt a profound sense of peace settle over him. When the story concluded, Emma yawned widely. "I should go to bed so Santa can come." "That's very considerate of you," Jessica smiled, kissing the top of her head. "Can Daddy tuck me in tonight?" Emma asked, her request directed at Jessica but her eyes on Andrew. "Of course," Jessica agreed. In the guest room that had become Emma's, Andrew sat on the edge of the bed as his daughter climbed under the covers. The walls were adorned with her drawings from the past few days, snowmen, stars, and a family portrait, showing the three of them holding hands. "Daddy?" Emma asked sleepily. "Are you going to be my daddy forever now?" The question pierced Andrew's heart. "I've always been your daddy, Emma, even when I wasn't here enough. But you'll stay now? You won't go to London?" Andrew realized she must have overheard conversations about the business expansion. "I'll be right here in Connecticut. I promise." Emma's eyes were heavy with sleep, but she reached for something under her pillow, a folded piece of paper. "I wrote a new letter to Santa," she confided. "Do you want to read it?" Andrew accepted the paper carefully, unfolding it to reveal Emma's improving handwriting. "Dear Santa, thank you for bringing my daddy back. You don't need to bring anything else. This is the best Christmas ever." Emotion overwhelmed Andrew. He leaned down to kiss Emma's forehead, unable to speak for a moment. "I love you, Emma," he finally managed. "I love you too." "Daddy," she murmured, already drifting to sleep. Andrew sat watching her for several minutes, the letter still in his hand, before quietly leaving the room. He found Jessica on the cabin's porch, wrapped in a blanket against the cold, watching the snow fall in the moonlight. "She's asleep," Andrew reported, joining her on the porch swing. Jessica nodded, making room under the blanket. "She's happier than I've seen her in years." Andrew showed her Emma's new letter. Jessica read it, tears forming in her eyes. "Oh, Andrew, I don't deserve her forgiveness," he said quietly. "Or yours." "Forgiveness isn't about deserving," Jessica replied, returning the letter. "It's about healing. Moving forward." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the snow create a fresh canvas across the landscape. The symbolism wasn't lost on either of them. "I've been thinking about selling the mansion," Andrew said finally. "It never felt like home." Jessica glanced at him, surprised. "Where would you live?" "I don't know yet. Somewhere smaller, warmer. He hesitated. Closer to you and Emma. Jessica leaned slightly against his shoulder, a small gesture but significant. One step at a time, remember? I remember, Andrew assured her. Christmas morning dawned clear and bright, the snow glistening under a perfect blue sky. Emma woke them early, bouncing with excitement as she discovered Santa had indeed found their cabin. Presents were opened with delight. Practical gifts from Jessica, carefully selected books and toys from Andrew, and special surprises from Santa. After breakfast, Andrew's satellite phone rang again. He considered ignoring it, but Jessica nodded for him to answer. It was Thomas Reynolds. Merry Christmas, Drew. Merry Christmas, Tom. Is everything all right? Yes, actually. Better than all right. Thomas sounded different, lighter somehow. I'm calling to apologize for how I've handled things. Watching this story unfold, seeing the public response to the foundation, it's made me reconsider some things. Andrew stepped onto the porch for privacy. I appreciate that, Tom. I have 2 sons I barely know, Thomas continued. Their mother remarried years ago, and I've used that as an excuse to stay distant. But your story, it hit home. What will you do? Andrew asked. I called them yesterday. Invited them to visit the office, see what their old man does. Maybe rebuild something. Thomas paused. The London office will be fine with your compromise plan. I was being stubborn. We both were, Andrew acknowledged. Enjoy your Christmas. Drew, we'll talk in the new year. When Andrew returned inside, he found Jessica and Emma preparing to go sledding on the hill behind the cabin. Emma was bundled in her winter gear, practically vibrating with anticipation. Everything okay? Jessica asked. Everything's good, Andrew confirmed. Just Thomas extending Christmas wishes. The day passed in a blur of simple joys, sledding until their cheeks were red, building a snow fort, warming up with hot chocolate by the fire. In late afternoon, Andrew excused himself briefly, returning with a small wrapped box that he handed to Jessica. What's this? She asked, surprised. Just a small gift. For you, not from Santa, he clarified with a smile. Jessica unwrapped it cautiously to reveal a velvet jewelry box. Inside was a silver pendant shaped like a star, similar to Emma's costume from the pageant. It's beautiful, Jessica said, touching it gently. Look at the back, Andrew suggested. Jessica turned the pendant over to find an inscription. Even in winter's longest night, the stars remind us light remains. Emma's line from the pageant. Jessica recognized, her voice soft. Andrew nodded. The moment I knew for certain I was making the right choice. Jessica held his gaze, something shifting in her expression. Help me put it on. Andrew fastened the necklace carefully, his fingers brushing the nape of her neck. When she turned to face him, their proximity felt both familiar and new. Thank you, she said simply. That evening, as they prepared dinner together, Jessica's phone rang. Eleanor Sullivan calling to wish them Merry Christmas and share that Catherine had indeed arrived from Chicago. Their reconciliation was tentative but real, years of distance beginning to heal. Would you like to join us for dinner tomorrow? Eleanor invited. Catherine is eager to meet the family behind the letter that brought her home. Jessica looked to Andrew, who nodded his agreement. We'd love to, she accepted. After the call, Jessica found Andrew staring out the window at the snow-covered landscape, his expression thoughtful. Penny, for your thoughts? She asked. I was just thinking about how different this Christmas could have been if I hadn't found Emma's letter, if I'd signed the London contract, if I'd continued as I was. Jessica stood beside him, her shoulder touching his. But you didn't. No, Andrew agreed, turning to face her. And I never will again. In the soft evening light, with Emma's laughter echoing from the living room where she played with her new toys, Jessica reached for Andrew's hand. Their fingers intertwined naturally, comfortably. When we go back to Westport, Jessica said quietly, I think we should talk about what comes next. For all of us. I'd like that. Andrew replied, hope warming his voice. Later, as they sat by the fire watching Emma demonstrate her new science kit, Andrew's phone pinged with an email notification. It was from the foundation team, sharing news coverage of families already being helped by the initiative. Attached was a video compilation of thank you messages from parents across the country. Andrew showed it to Jessica, their heads bent together over the screen. This is what her letter did, he said softly. "Beyond just changing me." Jessica nodded, visibly moved. "She'll be proud when she's old enough to understand." "Mommy, Daddy, look what I made," Emma called, holding up a crystal she had grown from the science kit. They moved to join their